With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are. With Dan Z, the podcast you're looking for. This is... yes.
Listen up. I need everybody to step away from their workstations and leave the room immediately.
T'es un combat. L'hai potamé, l'hai seja, l'hai bife.
Si mi feste quelqu'un.
What is it you think you're doing? You don't know me. Let's start over. My friend suggested I meet your father.
Your friend might have come himself.
Excellent work, Zero.
Thank you, sir. If I say this is the greatest day of my life, does it spoil everything?
This is Vanessa Marshall, Harrison Dula from Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Coffee with Kenobi, your family-friendly, spoiler-free Star Wars podcast where intelligent conversation, a splash of humor, and a warm cup of galactic goodness brings fans together from across the galaxy. I'm your host, Dan Zayer. Whether you're a lifelong Jedi Master or just hopped off your first Star Cruiser, grab your cap and join us as we explore the mythology, philosophy, and wonder of a galaxy far, far away, one conversation at a time. Thank you to the official travel partner of CWK MEI Travel and MouseFan Travel. Check out coffeewithkenobi.com/MouseFanTravel for a no-cost, no-obligation quote and let them know Coffee with Kenobi and Dan Zayer sent you. We've got a great show for you today. John Alois and Colby Mead return as we go to part 2 of our conversation discussing the 5th episode in Season 2 of Andor, I've Got Friends Everywhere. So pull up a chair, grab your favorite mug, and let's have Coffee with Kenobi.
Dan, don't you feel, I feel like he's like everyone else in the Empire, and it's about a me-first mentality.
No, I don't, because he's not backstabbing. He doesn't backstab anybody.
He's not backstabbing, but he's
the Empire does. Everybody in the ISP backstabs. Tarkin backstabs. They all backstab. He doesn't. He's the only one in the Empire, and he's not even in the Empire, by the way. He's in a separate security force. He's the only one that doesn't backstab. Think about that. I never knew I had this ode to Cyril that he was one of my favorite characters, but I think he's way more complex the more we talk about it.
Sure. I do have a question regarding that conversation, if we can go back to that really quickly.
Let's do it.
Please clarify for me. When he's talking to Enza and her father, and her father says, "We believe the Emperor has no idea what's being done on his behalf. They think the ISB is running a shadow government." Is this another chess move, or is he actually that naive? I mean, I feel like everybody seems to have a certain level of naivete in this episode, except for a couple of our characters that we've known already previously. Well, Cassian and Saw and a couple others. But to have that much faith in a leader and think that his nefarious actions are happening couldn't possibly come from him. Like the Emperor can't have anything to do with any of the bad things that are happening because he's our leader. He is who I put my faith into.
I am very glad you brought that up. And I think that is one of the best lines in this series and one of the most frightening. We know who Palpatine is. We know about Darth Sidious. I've written lots of words about Darth Sidious. We've all talked about him a lot. Based on that comment, the Emperor doesn't know what's going on their planet. Carl believes the Emperor doesn't know. Maybe the ISB is trying to secretly subvert and take over the Empire. Maybe they're running their own shadow government, right? They're like an extra deep cut of the workings of the Empire, separate from what the Emperor knows. Now, we know the Emperor knows everything. He's the great spider, not these Gorman spiders. He's the great spider spinning his webs. But they don't know that. For all they know, they, like you both said, they're very immature in this because they don't have a lot of experience with it. They have experience being oppressed. They don't have an experience in fighting against it, which is why Cassian is like, let me get this straight. You want to commit this crime, you want to live right at the crime scene, and you want to brag about it? Like, are you kidding? Like, and when he puts it that way, you just take a step back and you think, yeah, this is insane. This is doomed to fail. This is doomed to fail. And if this guy thinks that if the Emperor found out, maybe he would help, I don't think that's going to happen. So hopefully that clarifies.
To me, I just think of the power of propaganda that is displayed in that scene and by that line. And it's one of my favorite parts about this entire series is what it says about the real world. And
it's pretty scary.
Very. I went on a little bit of my own rant with my boys. I think it was during our review of an episode that doesn't exist in this conversation, but I still believe it applies to all the episodes. I feel like this show, more than any other Star Wars property since A New Hope, since the original Star Wars, has something to say to our world, and on a political level, on a very humanistic level. And I know that Tony Gilroy, I heard him in an interview, because boy, is he doing the Lord's work. He's out there. Yeah. He's out there. And he talked about how one of his goals was to put into this series everything that he had read and studied about revolutions in our own history and
world history.
Yeah,
this isn't just about this isn't about now. This is about human history.
Yeah. And what we see in this conversation, John, that I'm so glad you brought up, was that power of propaganda and how these empires, they control the narrative that way. And that's to disarm people. It's to get people confused. It's to weaken people. It's to exert power over people. It's exactly.
Their president, what's his name? President Snow or whatever. Yeah. Like a lot of people are like, oh, this is good. No, it's not. It's what they want you to think.
But exactly. I guess my question is, and this is where I didn't know if it was black and white or if it was gray, but is it Carl? Is that his name? He's not playing a game with Ciro.
Caro, Carro. No, he's not playing a game with Ciro. He thinks he is getting Ciro to be on his side.
All right. Yeah. So I didn't. Is he still testing Ciro? But so
I think he believes Ciro is his gateway. Yeah. I think they think they are flipping him, and he thinks that he is uncovering them.
Exactly.
But you also see, I think, and this is back to my Ciro love letter, I feel like, even though he's an actor, I feel like just for a split second here and there, you can see it in his eyes. He doesn't think they're bad people. Like, he kind of sees it because he's a little oppressed with that whole, there's a listening device. I don't know. I mean, we could talk all about Ciro, and I think I love both of your perspectives, and I love that. That's so
Dan, do we at some point in the Star Wars universe, do we get folks who flip because they actually come to a fork in the road where they believe everything that they were taught was wrong, and they finally admit, because it's hard for us to admit when we were wrong, when we're supporting a leader, and this leader, if they take us down the wrong path, sometimes we tend to follow them even if we know it's wrong, because we don't want to admit we were wrong.
Right.
Are there many moments in this world where we see some folks flip?
100%. Okay. Agent Alexander Callis from Star Wars Rebels springs to mind right away. There's a lot of them. There's a lot. A lot of them. That's a great question, and adds to the verisimilitude of this whole thing. And it feels real in the fiction, and it's just so good. Colby, I don't think you've brought up your main point yet, unless you want to try to arm wrestle me some more over Cyril, which is fun.
No, I don't. I retired from arm wrestling. Arm wrestling, elbow.
But again, that's why I love Coffee with Kenobi and your show, John, because you can talk and have different perspectives and really understand more about these characters in the story through everybody's different ideas. And I just think that's so great. We learned so much together.
I have three. I agree with you, Dan, and you've actually just influenced me to go with one of the 3 points that I have that are sort of like, I really want to make sure we talk about these things, and we actually haven't touched on them yet.
Okay.
And I'm so glad, because the things we have been talking about are things that I am so happy to have been a part of. But I want to talk about the phrase and the title of this episode, I Have Friends Everywhere.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
I don't know why they chose this. I don't know why this is the secret line that gains people's trust. I don't know why it's the title of the episode, but I'm so glad that it exists, because it highlights something that you just talked about. It's the power of community. It's the power of people coming together. And I feel that way about what we're doing right now. Podcasting. I had the opportunity to write a paper about podcasting in a pop culture perspective, and how it's allowed people to break out of a system of like economics where they are not beholden to a group of a board telling them how to do their job. We get to talk about things that we think are important. We're talking about Star Wars, and it's how it's applied to our daily lives and on a political level, and very big, important things. And people are listening and people are participating. And Dan, you've built this community that is just what we're doing right now. We're having discussions and we're talking about things that we don't all see eye to eye on and have our own perspectives, but we're doing it in a respectful and engaging and intellectual way. And I feel like this line just has become part of that Star Wars bigger community. There's a person, I'm sorry I don't have her name in my notes, but on Etsy who's making shirts now that says I have friends everywhere, and there's a rebel symbol on them. Mm-hmm. I said this actually I was watching an episode that we haven't gotten to yet, but this line was uttered in that episode, and my wife was sitting next to me, and as soon as the line went on the screen and said I have friends everywhere, she looked at me and she said, "Oh, that's like you." And I paused it and I looked at her and I said, "I don't understand. What do you mean?" And she goes, "You have a podcast and you have all these friends that are everywhere, and it's because of Star Wars." And it like floored me, guys. Like it stopped me in my tracks. This is my wife, who is wonderful and is the light of my life. She's not as big of a Star Wars fan as I am, and that's what makes life great. But she sat there and I said, "You know what? What do I have to do with this? I'm going to run to social media and I'm going to put it on Threads." You know that thing blew up. It's the biggest social media post I've ever put out there, and I don't do a great job at social media. But it just went to prove how people rally around this idea of I have friends everywhere. So I don't know if it's on purpose that somebody wrote this down saying, let's be a little meta with this, or whatever the reason is that it exists. But boy, am I glad, because it's true. The Star Wars is about a lot of things, and the power of community is one of them. And I feel like that it is just really wrapped up in a nice little package with a great bow on it with that line, I have friends everywhere.
What a beautiful sentiment. And I've only met your wife through like conversations like this. She's awesome. And she's obviously quite bright, because it's true. John, what do you think about that, buddy?
Colby's made me proud to be a part of this episode. Honestly, I didn't look at it that way.
Before you were like, Dan, you do what you can.
This episode in particular, Dan, I'm always proud to be a part of.
No, I know.
But this episode in particular, I love that so much. I have friends everywhere. I mean, that is, the world of podcasting has helped us learn about people that we didn't know existed sometimes, that there are our peeps are out there. Star Wars does that. For me, Disney does that, baseball, sports in general. But that is the culmination of what this world of Star Wars is. And that was just so eloquently put. Colby, I can't say anything else that's going to top that. I think that was wonderful. I'm so happy that you said it out loud. That was great. I didn't think of it that way.
The meta thing is really quite apt. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, anytime I have an opportunity to talk about community, I don't want to ever pass that up, because what's the tagline? I think it's in the Planet of the Apes movie, right? Together, apes together strong. That's the only way that you can overcome tyranny. And I love how it still applies very much to the thesis of Andor, which is the only way to overcome tyranny is together. So it still has that very applicable story sense. But yeah, you can ask Dan. I go on and on and on about community all the time.
It's a pretty wonderful, important part of the world, I would say. I like the titles of all of these episodes because they're not flippant, although they come across that way or can. But there's so much more to them than that, and I love this because it's very wink at the camera. I have friends everywhere, but I'm pretty sure as they're growing this rebellion, they don't feel that way at all. They have people that they trust with their lives, but even that is it's such a myopic thing that often people end up getting killed. Their friends get killed because they don't want information to get out. We saw this earlier in the episode with Mon Mothma's friend, who was starting to get a little frustrated and antsy that he was being put off, and then he ended up getting killed, right? So the friends thing is sort of ironic because it's more like a necessity, but there's also a slow understanding that people have more in common than they realize. It's just that the Empire's so good at keeping you apart. Mm-hmm. But it's pretty great.
I love that.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it.
And that's what evil does, right? You actually can't, you're not together. People don't agree with you. People have differences than you. People have, history is full of bigotry and hate and things like that. You're not the same. In fact, you're way more the same than you aren't. You do have friends everywhere. You just don't know it.
I love it. That's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful because of how you're highlighting the fact that evil separates. Evil brings separation, and that's another theme, a real world theme that we see separation throughout history. Oppressive governments, it doesn't even have to be an oppressive government. It can just be an oppressive town where there's too many of one type and not enough of the other. And they divide and conquer, right? You don't know that they exist, but they do. So that there you can kick in that hope where you have to just keep going and keep going and keep going, hoping to find the next coal that will help light your fire. And then you find another one before that dies out, and that fire just grows and grows. Just
amen. I don't know who's next. John, go ahead. You have something?
Well, I was just going to say, talking this out, and we may not agree on everything that we're discussing here tonight.
I hope we don't.
But if and this isn't really you, Dan, and I'm sure it's not you, Colby, but if we get on social media and we don't agree with somebody, we're not talking to them face to face, and obviously there's a breakdown there. So having an intelligent conversation, or at least having a conversation and sharing other points of view, is so vital and important. And I'm just happy to be a part of this. That had nothing to do with this episode. What did you think about Bix? We don't see her very much. We see how dark, how much of a dark place she is, right? She's getting involved in what would be, I guess, considered some sort of...
It's drugs, yeah.
It is drugs, right? So can you talk a little bit about that? I mean, the fact that we're getting glimpses of where everybody is, and we're not seeing... This isn't a happy episode, obviously.
No. I mean, Colby, go ahead.
I feel like I could do episodes just about Bix. To be quite honest, I find Bix to be rapidly rising the charts of one of my favorite Star Wars characters ever. And I am not at all uncomfortable saying that I feel like she's my favorite character in this show. And there's a lot of reasons for it. I won't won't hog the mic for all of them, but in this episode specifically, I think that she provides another incredible example of the effect that the abuse of power has on individuals, right? That comes from the storyline back on Mina Rao with the attempted assault, and also the torture that came before that. We're seeing her going through that, and the show doesn't pull any punches, right? And we get to see how those types of things affect a person on a personal level. She's a good person, right? She's doing something to, at this point, just try to survive. And there's a lot that can be said about that with her use of whatever it is to help her sleep. That's powerful. That's powerful. And another example I feel that we get in this episode with her is another example, going back to your first point, John, which was the visual storytelling. She says at one point when she's talking to Luthen that, I think he says it to her and she agrees, that Coruscant can be overwhelming. And we feel that just by seeing the condition of her living arrangements. She's in this dark, just apartment that is sort of just, she's not living there. She's existing there. She's just trying to get day by day. Cars are flying by her window at all times. There's no rest. There's no recuperation for her there. She's just trying to get by. And I feel like that's represented very well visually. So yeah, I feel like Bix in a lot of ways has provided the soul of this show. And I feel like she's super important to not just the show as and the story as a whole, but Cassian as a character and what we learn about him through her. And although they don't share any screen time in this one, I just feel like the heartbreak that she's going through and the perseverance really that she's displaying, to me, I find very inspirational.
I'm happy to hear you feel that way. If we're going to extrapolate this metaphor further to her being the soul of the show, that shows you how broken the show is right now. Because at this point, I don't see resilience. I see a wounded, broken person who is an addict and depressed. And I think what has been done to her through the Empire has made her feel small and alone and isolated. And now she is, because her husband had to leave her through something Luthen was doing for the greater good. She knows it's for the greater good. But the one moment she has, and I think it's in the last episode, she says, if we're going to do this, I want to win. Like, I don't want to spit in their food like Luthen says in season 1. I want to win. But she feels like she can't. And that was actually my next point. I want to see what you guys think about this while we're talking about Bix, because she is a terrific character. The conversation that Luthen and Bix have together, I'm curious to see what you both think. Does Luthen care about Bix? If so, why? If he doesn't, why do you say that?
I didn't think about it during the episode. I guess I just assume he does. Clearly, when
she doesn't feel that way, it seems.
But when she opens that door and she thinks the worst news is coming about Cassian.
Oh, yeah.
And he immediately puts his hand up, not that, I get a sense that he absolutely wants to be able to help her in the long run. And that was what I got out of it. I don't know. He's an enigma wrapped in a question mark, right? So, or however that goes. Yes. So, and I only say that because of what we know that what's coming. But I feel like all these characters are just kind of blindly moving forward. They don't know when it's going to end. They don't know what or how close they are to a finish line. Saw literally says, we'll all be dead before the Republic is back. He says that at the end of the episode. Mm-hmm. So I think they're all just trying to get through day to day. And if they can make an inch, if they can move forward just a little bit that next day, it's a win for them.
Fascinating.
I have a question before I can
Fascinating means you disagree with me. What do you?
No, I don't disagree with you at all. I like it. No, I want to add to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Colby.
No. It's to answer my question before, and then you add to it. Your question was, does Luthen care, right, about Bix?
And I said, and if he does, how do we know? And if he doesn't, why do you say that?
Before I can say anything, I feel like I do need to ask this question. Can a person, what are your opinions? Can someone value someone else and not care about them? And it's an honest question. I want to hear what you guys think.
I don't think so.
Value someone and not care?
I don't think so.
Okay.
See, I
John,
do.
I mean, I guess you can value them as a human with an existence, but if you don't care, then do you really value them? I don't know that you do.
As pawns, for the greater good.
But that's not value. That's objectification.
Well, he values what they bring to the table for the greater mission, right?
It's like saying, I think when we do that silly baseball thing, which is so trivial compared to life and death stuff. You're a great second baseman. I think you're a jerk, but you're a great second baseman. So I'll have you on the team. I mean, so you value them because of selfish reasons, but that you don't care about them. I think those are very different things.
Right. Sure.
So maybe the better question
as a commodity.
Okay, perfect. That's sort of the way that I'm looking at it is. So my opinion of this was that I feel like Luthen finds Bix valuable, but doesn't care about her. So that's sort of like looking at her as that commodity that you're talking about, Dan. So I don't know, maybe I'm just walking the line and not committing. I do feel like he sees her as valuable, and it is based on that reaction, John, that you brought up when he understands what she's reacting to immediately, because Luthen's not a monster, right? And I've spent a lot of time over the course of this show thinking about Luthen versus the Empire, and maybe for our purposes, I could say Krennic, because Krennic, even though he wasn't in the first season and he isn't in a ton of the episodes here, he's sort of the face of the Empire as we get closer to the Death Star, right? He is behind the manipulation of Gorman and all of that. He is doing to the people in Gorman the same thing that Luthen is doing to the people in Gorman, using them for a means to their own end. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Krennic doesn't care one bit about the people, but Luthen can find value because he's fighting. Ultimately, he's fighting for the freedom to do what someone wants to do and not be oppressed, right? So there is an element of humanism in there and seeing the value of an individual. But I don't know that he cares about Bix as the individual, but he cares as the group of an individual. And I find that to be fascinating.
Paradoxical. I have no doubt in my mind, zero doubt in my mind. Of course he cares about Bix. I would die on that hill. Yes, he cares about her. For one thing, if you want to look at some evidence, and all we can go, this is what I tell my students, you can only go by what the author has provided. What is the scene provided for you? Hey, look, that stuff you're using to get to sleep, it'll help at first, but the nightmares will come back and they'll be stronger and you won't be able to stop them. He cares. If he didn't care, he wouldn't say anything. He does it in his way. He's not Colby Mead or John Alois or Dan Zare. He's Luthen Real. This is a guy who is fighting the biggest evil the galaxy has ever known. And he has hardened himself because of the great pain and suffering he has seen, untold death, untold suffering, untold anguish, untold loss of family, and the eradication of the family dynamic because of what he is committed to doing. He knows he's not that far off from Saw Gerrera in many ways. So he cares. He shows up. He does want to check on her. He promised Cassian he did. He would. He did. He does need her strong. He needs her strong to keep Cassian grounded. He needs her strong because she's a heck of a fighter and a spy and a rebel. But he needs her okay and strong because he cares about her. And he wouldn't come by and do it if he didn't. His time is pretty divided. We think we're spinning plates? Nah, no way. not compared to Luthen Rio. I think he cares a lot. And I think the fact that he does what he does in that quick scene is very dynamic and shows how incredibly nuanced he is. And that's probably one of the problems with Andor. And when I say problem, I think that's a wonderful thing, a purposeful thing, a good thing, because it's really not a problem. These are dynamic characters. And look, I've spent an inordinate amount of time in my life, personally and professionally, loving and obsessing over Star Wars characters. But most Star Wars characters are not rich. They are not dynamic. They're just a heck of a lot of fun. With Andor, they are rich, they are dynamic, and they're not a lot of fun because they're in a pretty dire situation. So I think he cares a lot. I think it's a complicated answer for complicated characters.
Isn't it wonderful how dynamic different factions or different corners of the Star Wars universe can be? So from this show, technically in the timeline, I mean, if you're talking about the show into the movies, the next film is Rogue One, which is also dark. But then we're only 2 shows away from lines like, can somebody get this walking carpet out of my way? There's humor invoked, and there's a lighter side to the storytelling of this. This just happens to go down a darker path, and I feel it makes it richer, my opinion. And I love it because of that.
And they're different audiences too. The audience in New Hope is not the same audience as Andor. It's just not.
You mean as far as ages or
ages, maturity, the severity of the tone? Just because it has the word Star Wars on it, we're in a whole different era now of Star Wars storytelling. Just because it has Star Wars on it, Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures has Star Wars in front of it. Those are for preschool kids. This is light years from that.
Yeah.
To me, it speaks to the brilliance. It speaks to the brilliance of George Lucas's vision and this universe galaxy that he's created, where I really truly believe there's enough room for all of this.
Yes,
Star Wars is for everyone. It doesn't have to be for you. This specific thing doesn't have to be for you, but it can be for this other section of the audience. And Tony Gilroy talked about that too. How he thinks it's a mistake to look at Star Wars fandom as, I believe he called it, a monolith, where there literally are factions. There's groups of these people that prefer this. There's people that prefer this. And just because I like this doesn't mean I'm wrong about anything. I don't think you're wrong about liking that.
Yeah.
There's room for all of it. And it just, to me, it speaks to the brilliance of the creation of this kind of storytelling. And that's what you get when you create some kind of a world where you're trying to create myth. And that's what we have here. And if you're using it right, you've got room for some brilliant stuff.
Yes. And also another testament to the euphoric feeling we should have as fans that Disney's the caretaker for Star Wars, because they are empowering storytellers to tell lots of different stories set in this wonderful galactic sandbox, which we can't get enough of.
And the other part about that, as far as Disney goes, Dan, Disney also has different areas or different levels of darkness to light, right? You can have Cinderella. You can also have Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. Marvel is the same thing. It runs the gamut. But the difference is with Star Wars, it's all one world. But I am glad it's part of it's under that Disney umbrella.
Oh, it'll be one of the biggest days of my life is when I found out that Lucasfilm was purchased by Disney. I remember where I was. I remember talking to my wife. I remember all of it perfectly.
Ditto. Me too.
Yes. Well, we've gone really, really long.
I know. Sorry.
And don't be. This has been a wonderful, rich conversation with a lot of really smart people. And I appreciate you letting this bozo, me, be a part of the show. Are there any last minute things you want to talk about? Because I'm ready to give a letter grade. No?
I'm ready too.
John?
I just can't end this episode without praising your Cubs hat with a lightsaber coming across. I have not seen. Please post a picture of this. It's literally painting the sea red, and there's a red trail behind it.
It's the lightsaber.
Look at this.
Yeah, it's the lightsaber. Yes, it's the lightsaber hands from Return of the Jedi poster. But it's got the lightsaber cutting the Cubs logo. Yeah,
wonderful. Yeah.
pretty good. And Colby's wearing his Dodge hat. You know, it wouldn't have killed you to beat the Cardinals.
Yeah, exactly.
More than 1 out of 3 games. You really let me down.
No, they're not having a great time right now.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, let's give our letter grade and last minute thoughts. John, let's start with you.
I think I'm going to go with a B+ on this one. I did enjoy the episode. Many times, however, when I think of Star Wars, I am thinking about running down those long hallways as laser fire is shooting past Han Solo and the team. But it's a brilliantly written and crafted episode. I loved it. I'm going to go B+ just because it's a little bit slower. That's my opinion.
Excellent. Colby?
So my rubric for giving grades I have developed, I need to be entertained, I need to be informed, and I need to be moved emotionally. And I will say that I was entertained by this episode. I was informed by this episode. You know, look at what we just talked about, right? Based on this 50-minute long episode-ish. I can't say that there was a ton of emotion. So that's why I'm giving it an A. It's a solid A. I'll be honest with you. I don't think there's any episode, in my opinion, there's no episode in the series that is less than an A. So for me, it's splitting hairs. Is this an A-, an A, or an A+? And I'm very comfortable with giving it that solid A because it got 2 out of the 3 of the boxes that I asked it to do.
Fantastic. This is a stone cold lock of an A+ for me. It's a very easy A+ because it's brilliant. Much like last week when I was talking with Mark and Daz, I didn't even realize there was no action in the episode. There's no action in this episode, and I didn't care one bit. Because it's so engrossing. It's so captivating. This really is, as I said, this is the start of about 5 or 6 episodes of brilliant television. Brilliant, insightful, moving, full of pathos. They make you think. And they really set stages. Like, this is chess. I love A New Hope. It's New Hope's checkers. This is chess. This is chess. And that's not a pejorative. I love Star Wars, and I've seen it more than is rational. But this is checkers, and it's brilliant. The characters, the building of Cyril, the complexity of the conversation we talked about with Bix and Luthen, the super weirdness of Saw Gerrera at the end, which we haven't even really talked about. It's just a dynamite, and the tension it builds. This is a blueprint for telling a fantastic, smart, important story, and I just can't get enough of it.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z, the podcast you're looking for. This is
But I also can't get enough of the Colby Cast. And I can't get enough of the Hyperion Hub. And I would love, gentlemen, first of all, thank you so much for sharing your time and talents on Coffee with Kenobi and for chatting with me. I love it. I knew you two would make me think and challenge preconceived notions. And that's one of the reasons we love you guys. So, Colby, tell us what's going on with the Colby Cast.
Thank you, Dan. And that's why I love coming on to the show, because we get to have this rich conversation and just talk about very important things, but in a very wonderful atmosphere that's just entertaining and just wonderful. It's just always great to join you, and I always appreciate the invitation. The Colby Cast, Caleb, Luke, and I, my 20-something sons, we talk about all kinds of stuff. I would love to talk to them every week about Star Wars because that's my happy place, but we talk about Marvel, we talk about movies, we talk about television shows, whatever is on our radar at the time, pop culture in general. We just recorded an episode where we just sort of talked nonsense and foolishness and gave our watch recommendations. And coming up very, very quickly, celebrating Father's Day, we had the honor and joy to record with none other Dan Zare and Mason Zare, which was a 2-hour-long episode about sports. That's how the Colby Cast rolls, and I can't wait to get it for everybody out there, for everyone to enjoy, because it was just an absolute highlight of the last 3 years of podcasting. You can find us on all the socials, Threads, X and Instagram at the Colby Cast. So thanks again, Dan.
Oh, well, thank you. And I can't wait to hear it. Mason had the most wonderful time chatting with you and the boys. It was such a pleasure. John, every summer we know that you, your trio of Disney happiness is going to be traveling. It's going to be exploring film and all kinds of stuff. What is going on with the Hyperion Hub?
Well, thanks for mentioning the Hyperion Hub. We have Sean Degenhardt, who's going to Walt Disney World. We'll have those episodes coming up. John Redling-Schaefer is going to be heading out west to Disneyland this year for the first time ever for him. I believe he's going with Adventures by Disney. And our trip's coming up at the end of the year during Thanksgiving. We'll be down in Walt Disney World with the Washington Community High School Marching Band. So that'll be exciting to be on Main Street, USA. But we are wherever you find podcasts, and we are on all social medias. So we appreciate, Dan, I always love coming on the show. You make me a smarter Star Wars fan. You make me a smarter person. You have literally made my children smarter by teaching them, and I appreciate that. And it's just wonderful to be here. Thank you so much.
Look, you guys are the best. Thank you so much. Just like that, our journey through the galaxy for today has come to a close. Thanks again to Colby and John for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the two-part discussion of I've Got Friends Everywhere. I didn't expect that to happen initially when I started recording, but there's so much, and this was a great conversation. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as we enjoyed having it with you and for you. Thank you so much for joining me here at Coffee with Kenobi, the place where thoughtful Star Wars conversation pairs perfectly with your favorite cup of coffee. Whether you're on the go, relaxing at home, or sipping cap at your favorite corner of the galaxy, I'm truly grateful you chose to spend part of your day with me. For all things Star Wars, news, reviews, videos, and more, head to our home base, coffeewithkenobi.com. And a special thank you to our official travel partner, MEI Travel and Mouse Fan Travel. Looking to plan your next magical vacation to Walt Disney World, Disneyland, or even a Disney cruise? Want to explore Galaxy's Edge or attend Star Wars Celebration? Becky Mankin and her team will get you there with a no-cost, no-obligation quote and the kind of peace of mind we all appreciate. Learn more at coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefantravel. At the time this show is being released, I will be getting off the Disney Wish cruise, the cruise that we've been looking forward to for a year and a half, the Coffee with Kenobi Mouse Fan Travel cruise. Look for future Coffee with Kenobi and MEI Travel, Mouse Fan Travel opportunities in the near future. Be sure to tune in to coffeewithkenobi.com for all of the information and look for a very special show where we talk about our experiences on the Disney Wish. Don't forget to join the CWK Cafe on Facebook at coffeewithkenobi.com/community, our family-friendly, spoiler-free group for all your Star Wars thoughts, comments, and conversation. This podcast is possible because of the incredible support of the CWK Alliance. You want to help keep this show brewing? For as little as $1 a month, you can join the CWK Alliance and get access to CWK Pour-Over, our exclusive weekly audio and video podcast. Learn more at coffeewithkenobi.com/CWK Alliance. And please know this, 10% of your monthly support goes directly to the St. Jude Children's Hospital. If you want to connect, you can email me at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com. You can find me on X, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can follow Coffee with Kenobi across social media, X, Instagram, Threads, Pinterest, and Blue Sky. And give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel where you'll find over 700 videos, including past live shows, events, and this podcast. Take a moment to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It truly helps more Star Wars fans find our little corner of the galaxy. If you need a speaker for your next event, visit danzmedia.com. I love to talk mythology, leadership, storytelling, or tailor something unique for your audience. Grab your CWK gear at coffeewithkenobi.com/shop and show your support in style. Thank you once again for joining me for this virtual cup of coffee. I'm Dan Zayer, and this is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.